Hi, and welcome to Political Quickie, your political show that subjectively discusses current affairs in South Africa and all around the world. My name is Mapasika Mura. So South Africa has been hit by listeriosis. A total of 180 cases have been reported of people having died because of the disease. Yes. So Listeria is a disease caused by consumption of foods that contain the Listeria bacteria. So symptoms will include nausea, diarrhea, a stiff neck. So basically flu-like symptoms. So the bacteria has been traced to a factory, an enterprise factory in Limpopo, owned by Tiger Brands. And retailers like Pick and Pay, as well as the enterprise factory, say that you can return your cold meat, that is your Russian, your Vienna, and so forth, back to them without having a slip, so that they can refund you. But basically the damage is already done. 180 people have died because of this. The CEO of Tiger Brands came out saying, you know what, I see this problem, but however, there is no direct link between the deaths by Listeria and Enterprise Foods, even though the Listeria has been traced back to Enterprise Foods. Like, really? Like, come on, guy. I mean, even the Steinhoff CEO apologized. He was like, you know what, I was wrong. I am sorry. But he's like, no, he's in denial. He took like the PR slash legal defensive route. So, you know what, all I can say is that corporate South Africa needs to open their books. It needs to open the labor practices, and the hygiene practices also need to be more transparent, because clearly this relationship in terms of transparency and honesty and our lives being at risk is not doing very well. No. Moving on to other news, however, this is my official response to the comment, or rather the essay that Tony left on the previous video titled, "Is David Mabuza the most dangerous politician right now?" Where I said that, for me personally, 2019, ANC is not an option for me. So it's between the EFF and the DA. And he basically said, please substantiate, based on policy, which political party to either vote for or not. But you know what? I will partially respond. Yes, partially respond, because the essay was long. You know what? I would love that we would be able to vote for a political party based on their policies and their policies alone. But we can't. The ANC has proven to us that, you can have good policies, but sometimes the implementation of those policies can be the biggest problem. Corruption has crippled their progress for the most part. So we need to look at other factors and not just policies. So let's begin with the Democratic Alliance, the biggest opposition in parliament, and the one political party that's, really gradually grown from 1994. So, the DA wants to reduce the number of cabinet ministers, to 15 of them, which will save them about 4.7 billion rands per year. It supports a capitalist market. They support land reform, just not the expropriation of land without compensation, which is actually a euphemism for saying, actually, we want to reward thieves. We want to reward the people who have stolen the land. Let's rather pay them for having stolen the land in the first place. Yeah. So in terms of Johannesburg, because the mayor of Johannesburg is part of the DA, I think Mashaba has done quite, a good job. He's trying to clean up Johannesburg. If you've been here, especially Johannesburg CBD, you know how it's dirty and there's the state of anarchy there, and he's really trying to clean that up. However, The DA, it's very challenged, hey? It's very, very challenged. For one, they're always screaming about what the ANC is not doing or the ANC is doing, and they never ever focus on the things that they need to be focused on, like governing the Western Cape. For instance, during this whole water crisis in Cape Town, instead of focusing on that water crisis, they've been crying, oh, but the ANC is not doing this, corruption, etc. And they've tried to get their mayor, who is the person who's supposed to deal with that water crisis, fired. I mean, that's been their main focus, basically. Patricia de Lille, the mayor of Cape Town, came out saying that the reason why they want to fire her is because she has prioritized people who are previously displaced by apartheid in terms of transport and affordable housing. And she says, you know what, the DA and other people are not liking this very much, hence they want to get me fired. They've had a lot of racial issues within the DA. Penny Sparrow, who was a DA member, came out calling black people monkeys. And then there's the premier of the Western Cape, Helen Zille, who continuously makes comments like, you know what, colonialism actually was not that bad, because now we have the judiciary. Basically, we have civilization because of colonialism. So let's not be so harsh on it. Let's not. However, the DA, in terms of state capture, they really tried, tried to bring the ANC and the Guptas to book, the many court cases, the many motions of no confidence. They were very, very loud in terms of, bringing those people to book. However, when it comes to corporate South Africa, DA, Steinhoff, McKenzie, and the likes, when we find out about the corruption within those companies, the DA is like, we have amnesia, but we condemn it, but we're not, they're not very serious about, the alleged state capture by white monopoly capital. They're not serious about the corruption within corporate South Africa. They just care if, an Indian family is holding South Africa, captive in that sense. And so that's why I feel like the DA sometimes, most of the time, is out of touch with the reality of what South Africans really need. And it thinks that we can just kumbaya as a rainbow nation without really getting to the crux of the problem. My biggest issue with the DA is when they were debating the motion of, the expropriation of land brought forth by the EFF. And instead of selfie or, the normal white men that speak for the DA, they instead brought a black woman to come and oppose this motion to expropriate land. I mean, on so many levels, that's so disrespectful and disgusting on their part for, bringing forth a black woman, and on her part for allowing that to even happen. So, moving on to the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters, the youngest political party in parliament to date, the most successful political party to ever come out of the ANC. So the EFF has 7 non-negotiable pillars, but we'll only discuss 2. Number 1, the nationalization of banks, mines, the South African Reserve Bank, as well as other economic industries. So I disagree with that completely, because government, in South Africa has been corrupt, allegedly, for the longest time. So you can't trust politicians with the likes of banks, with the likes of mines, and the South African Reserve Bank. Because if you look at the state of state-owned enterprises and how almost bankrupt they are and how corrupt they are, you can't really trust politicians with those. Someone can argue and say, the EFF has got integrity. We know they will, manage them well. But the thing is, government is ever changing. It's ever evolving. So one day Ubaba is in, the next day he's gone, and it's Cyril Ramaphosa who's in, and his team. So the different personalities that come in, and I don't think we can trust them with our banks that much. However, the one thing that I would like to see happen in terms of banks and mines, I would love to see them socialized. Yes. I think if the people own them themselves, if the people had shares in banks, and it wasn't just, a partnership or one person that owns those institutions, then economically the people would do so much better. The second thing would be the expropriation of land without compensation. Yes. So I absolutely agree with that. Except, again, what the EFF wants to do is not give the land to the people. No. So the EFF wants to take away land from both white South Africans and black South Africans, and they want to nationalize the land. Yes. So if you want to use the land for something, you would then have to apply for a license that would be a maximum of 25 years. So that is the policy of the EFF. The expropriation of land without compensation, especially the land that is owned by people who stole the land, I absolutely agree with. However, nationalizing land and having the government own it and the people applying for licenses to use the land, I think is absolutely ridiculous. So it's like, the EFF is got the right ideas, partially, like 50%, and then they go left. Like, it's like, EFF, come on. And also, I just feel like for me, the EFF is obviously a revolution. They've said this, they're revolutionary and they want an economic revolution to take place. My problem with revolutions is that, sometimes, most of the time, they end up being dictatorships. So that is my worst fear when it comes to the EFF. It's like they speak the truth for the most part. They've got the right ideas 50% of the time, but there's this dictatorship that I fear about them. At their last elective conference, Julius Malema went unopposed. He was elected the president of the EFF without anyone opposing him. There was a candidate from the Free State, but then he was like, nah, I'm not going to, nah. So it seems like he's going to be the only guy running for the EFF presidency forever and ever and ever. So for me, I'm not comfortable with, the idea of a dictatorship. So, I mean, it's up to you, South Africa. Would you rather go for a racially challenged, out of touch political party that initially opposed BEE, that does not want to expropriate land without compensation? Or would you rather go for a political party that partially has the right ideas, but at the same time, I believe, has sort of this connotation of dictatorship that comes with it? So a very, very tough one. Or we could just vote UDM or COPE. No, we can't vote COPE. COPE does not want the expropriation of land without compensation. We could vote for Case or, I don't know, or start our own political party. I still think that the best option in terms of elections in South Africa would be if we would vote for an individual instead of a political party. I think that would work. And we could use referendums instead of, a group of people in parliament deciding on our behalf what we want or what we don't want. So, yeah, go out there, ponder on what you want to happen, and yeah, let's take it from there. Moving on to international news. The French embassy, the military headquarters, as well as the French Cultural Center in Burkina Faso have been bombed. So a total of 28 people have died and 75 were reported injured. So the Burkina Faso government as well as the French government are saying they suspect that it's terrorists who've done this. But you know what? I suspect otherwise. I think maybe, potentially, this could be the Burkina Faso people who are sick and tired of French rule and oppression in West Africa. We've had this conversation before about how France takes $500 billion every single year from West Africa, citing colonial tax. Makes no sense whatsoever. So I think maybe the people in Burkina Faso are tired of it. They've had enough, and maybe this is them revolting against French rule. Not saying I condone or I'm for violence, but what I am saying is that maybe the people who they think have done this is not them at all. Maybe it's closer to home than they think. That was Political Quickie. Go out there, use your talents to serve humanity, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.